What's going on, everybody? Welcome into episode 91 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast on this Tuesday, July 15th, 2025. I'm your host, Zach Malin, but before we get started, please subscribe below. Follow all of my social accounts. Let's start things off out in Florham Park. As the New York Jets made some noise in the last 24 hours, they have signed wide receiver Garrett Wilson to a 4-year, $130 million contract extension, including $90 million guaranteed for the 24-year-old wide receiver who's had a phenomenal first 3 years in the NFL. This was a deal that needed to get done, and Wilson ends up getting the 5th highest contract among wide receivers in terms of average annual value. $32.5 million per year, and it needed to get done. The Jets got it done. There was a lot of noise about Garrett Wilson at the end of last season, maybe wanting out, maybe going to request a trade, go to his buddy and CJ Stroud down in Houston or elsewhere, just a better offensive system. But the Jets did their part in this situation. They got him an old friend in Justin Fields to come in and be his quarterback this season. They got a new regime with Aaron Glenn, and they have Tanner Engstrand being the offensive coordinator. There's a lot of good things coming to this Jets offense, and Garrett Wilson sees that. He also sees a lot of money coming his way. The 5th highest AAV among wide receivers is no slouch, and Garrett Wilson definitely deserves that money. He's had 80-plus receptions, 1,000-plus receiving yards in every single one of his NFL season. So he needs to step up his game this year now because a lot of pressure on him to continue that. But he's a real dynamite wide receiver, and number one in this league, and he deserved his money. Got hit rightfully so, and he's clearly the number one for the Jets on their depth chart at wide receiver. Probably looking for some more weapons besides Garrett Wilson, but they added Mason Taylor, of course, the tight end out of LSU in the second round of the NFL draft. But they also have some more veterans around Garrett Wilson and Josh Reynolds. They also have Alan Lazard. They also have some younger guys in Malachi Corley, Arian Smith, who comes in to this Jets wide receiver room. And obviously the Jets need some more work surrounding Wilson, and they kind of did that. They're more focused on the offensive line, and they got Armand Membu in the first round as their starting right tackle for this season. So they did the right part on that one by going Membu instead of a weapon, but they end up adding Mason Taylor, a tight end, in the second round. They need some more wide receivers to go around Garrett Wilson, but even so, he's the main guy, and Justin Fields, this offense is going to focus around Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall and what those two can do with the ball in their hands. And Garrett Wilson gets this monster deal. It's a big, big move for the New York Jets, and definitely the right one, and happy that the New York Jets were finally able to get that done. They do have to focus all their attention now on Sauce Gardner at cornerback. He's going to get the highest paid cornerback deal in NFL history. It's just a matter of how much Sauce Gardner will get when that deal is signed. That's probably going to happen at some point before the end of this upcoming season. And really, you're looking at the offseason saying, yeah, get that done right now with Sauce Gardner done with year 3 and heading into year 4. He's going to get a monster deal. So the Jets are looking forward to that. One deal down with Garrett Wilson, the next deal to come with Sauce Gardner, and we'll have all the latest on that in future weeks. But let's move things to baseball, as both New York teams were in action this weekend, and obviously it is All-Star Week now with the Home Run Derby yesterday, the All-Star Game today. Let's look at the previous week for the New York Yankees, as the Yankees took on the Chicago Cubs for a 3-game set at Yankee Stadium in the Bronx. And the Cubs came in and really laid an egg against the Yankees on Friday night, where the Yankees ended up taking the game 11-0, game 1 of this series. And Carlos Rodon was just terrific all throughout this game, and he went 8 innings strong. Great performance from him in the end, and the Yankees win this one 11-0. It was also Cody Bellinger Day, as he goes up against his former team, the Chicago Cubs, and completely trounces them. He almost had 4 home runs if it wasn't for Kyle Tucker robbing one in the short porch of right field. He had 3, though, so he'll have to stick with that. 3 home runs for Cody Bellinger. What a performance he had on Friday evening, and he really has stepped up for this Yankees team since the month of June, and I think he's been one of the best players in baseball in terms of batting. The hitting streak just continued to roll, and he's still finding ways to to get the job done for this Yankees team on offense, and they need that big time in any way they could get behind a guy like Aaron Judge, who gets on base more times than not. So when you look at the rest of the series, you're thinking, all right, well, the Yankee offense woke up. Carlos Rodon had a great outing. The pitching looks pretty good. And it was just all bad from there because the offense really was sleeping through the last two games. And when you look at the 11-0 win on Friday, it was all about base hits. And yes, the long ball was a big part of it, but the base hits, the Yankees had 15 hits on Friday night. And that's really the difference between a good game and a bad game, beating a good team and not beating a good team. When you go up the next couple of days and only put up 3 runs in 2 games, they did have 6 hits against Matthew Boyd, but he went through this Yankees lineup very easily. 8 innings strong, 6 strikeouts, only 4 hits allowed, no runs and no walks. And then the Yankees grabbed a couple at the end with Aaron Judge hitting a 2-run bomb. But other than that, this Yankees team did really nothing on offense on Saturday. And then you look at Sunday's game and you're thinking, all right, Will Warren on the mound. They're going up against a tough pitcher in Imanaga, who's been really, really good this year. And Imanaga did the same thing that Matthew Boyd did, just completely trucked through this Yankees lineup. If it wasn't for Giancarlo Stanton's right center homer in the bottom of the second inning, I mean, we could be talking about one heck of an outing for Imanaga. It still was, with only 2 hits allowed in 7 innings, 1 run with 6 strikeouts and a walk. I mean, when you look at it in the end, though, if he doesn't allow that homer to Stanton, I mean, we're in no-hitter territory, real close to it with Imanaga, and he obviously has been really strong this year. Will Warren gets credited with the loss in this one. The big blow for him was that home run that Ian Hamilton came into the game and led up. The game was tied at 1 in the 6th inning, and Dansby Swanson took a ball that Ian Hamilton left in the middle of the zone and really crushed that ball to left field. So they take a 3-1 lead, the Cubs do, and then they end up closing out the game with a 4-1 victory. So the Yankees end up losing their final series before the All-Star break. Not a great stretch for the Yankees, but they're looking to bounce back after the All-Star break to continue that streak of going. When you look at the Mets side of things, they took on the Kansas City Royals in Kansas City for a 3-game set for the final series before the All-Star break, and Kansas City ends up losing 2 out of 3. The Mets take 2 out of 3 in Kansas City. They win the first 2 games, and it really was all about the comebacks in this one. When you look at Friday's game, Mets were trailing in this game, looked really dead in the water at the end of the 7th inning, where they trailed 3-1, and it was all coming down to a Bobby Witt Jr. bomb to center field, 431 feet, that he hit off of Huascar Brazoban. And when you're looking at this Mets lineup, they did next to nothing in the first part of that game, and they really, really stepped it up in the 8th and 9th inning, and it came down to a guy who's struggling. Mark Vientos hits a big-time 3-run double into center field and clears the bases to give the Mets a 4-3 lead. Lindor tacked on with a 3-run homer, and then you also had Juan Soto add on to that with a solo shot of his own, and the Mets end up winning it 8-3, a phenomenal game in the end, and the Mets end up winning it, like I said, 8-3 in a game that they looked like they were down and out until Mark Vientos hit that 3-run double. When you look at the rest of the series, though, then the Mets had a 3-1 victory against the Royals on Saturday, and they really relied on their starter and Frankie Montas to get the job done. 5 innings strong, 4 hits allowed, just 1 run or 1 earned run with 5 strikeouts and no walks. Juan Soto hit a 2-run bomb to right field, and that was really the difference in that game because the Mets end up getting the 3-1 victory. Their pitching looked really, really good in this game, though. And when you rely on Frankie Montas and then the 3 relievers in Garrett, Davinsky, and Edwin Diaz, I mean, those 3 guys really mowed through this Kansas City lineup, and Diaz ends up getting the 6-out save, just his 3rd career 6-out save, and he really looked good in this game. So really the Mets go into the All-Star break thinking, all right, this is positive. And yes, they ended up losing the game on Sunday 3-2 with Sean Manaea being credited with the loss. They lose it in extras with Lofton hitting an RBI single that won the game for Kansas City. But the Mets end up winning 2 out of 3, and now they sit real close to Philadelphia in the National League East, and they sit in second right now with a 55-42 record. When you look at both teams, the Yankees and the Mets, let's grade the first half for each of these teams. Starting off with the New York Yankees, I give them a B- for their first half of the season. The expectations that they have coming in after a World Series appearance, you expect them to be top of the division. They're second right now behind Toronto, and yes, Boston's real close behind them, plus Tampa, who's sputtered just a little bit in the last month or so. They're close as well. I think the Yankees have a lot of pressure on them to win this division, and that's really something that they have to strive for. They had an 8-game lead in the division that they blew in the month of June, so they need to pick that up again, and really they hope to win the division, and that's really the expectation for this Yankees team right now. I think a bigger part for this Yankees lineup is picking up a third baseman. They have to pick up a third baseman at the deadline. They cannot rely on Oswald Peraza, Jordan Vivas to really take on the load. They already designated DJ LeMahieu for assignment, released him in the end, and really looked at that and said, yeah, he's not going to fit in well as our third baseman right now. He's not even going to be our third baseman because he'll play at second and Jazz Chisholm would be at third. Now they moved Jazz Chisholm to second, and there's a real empty hole on the offensive side of things at third base for the Yankees. So they need to pick up somebody at the deadline to really fill that hole. I also would say I don't even blame the starting pitching of the New York Yankees for their streak right now. There's a lot of injuries to this Yankees rotation. Of course, Luis Gil hasn't pitched this year. Garrett Cole's not going to pitch this year. Clark Schmidt's now down for the year with Tommy John surgery. So there's a lot of pressure on this Yankees starting pitching rotation, and I think they have stepped up to the plate for the most part this year. There's been a couple bad outings here and there, but for the most part, what you expected from this Yankees rotation, you're kind of getting it. I do think they need some bullpen help, though, right next to Luke Weaver and Devin Williams. Those guys have taken on the load, the hefty load this season. Weaver's, been iffy since he came back from the injured list, but he'll figure things out. Devin Williams has been really strong, in my opinion, every time he's gone out on the mound recently. So they need a third guy, maybe even a fourth guy, to really pick up the load right behind them. They can't continue to rely on certain guys like Tim Hill and Mark Leiter Jr. It's not great for the Yankees, and I think those two guys have too much pressure on them. It's going to lead to bad outings for both of those guys. So they need another arm in the bullpen, and hopefully the Yankees are able to get that. On the other side for the New York Mets, I landed on a B for them in their first half. It would have been higher, probably an A, if they didn't go through that horrendous stretch in the month of June. They went 2-8 against their top rivals, their top opponents in the Braves and the Phillies. 2-8. That's just not good enough in the month of June, and they end up, yes, they've dealt with injuries this year, and they've been battle tested through a lot this year so far, the New York Mets have, but I can't give them anything higher than a B because this team, even with their injuries, their expectation is win the division, win the World Series. They got to be top notch there, and they don't have that right now. They're in second place right now in the division. Yes, they're very close to Philadelphia, separated by less than a game, but even so, they need to be first place in the division and probably with a little bit of breathing room with the talent that they have on this Mets roster. So I can't give them anything higher than a B, but I also look at the need for consistency at the bottom of the lineup. That's a big thing heading into the second half. They need consistent hitters at the bottom of their lineup, whether it's Ronnie Mauricio, Francisco Alvarez could come back from the minors pretty soon, Brett Beatty at the bottom of the lineup. They need some more contributions at the bottom of this lineup. They cannot rely game in, game out on Francisco Lindor, Juan Soto, and Pete Alonso, and even Brandon Nimmo as well. Those four guys have stepped up. Lindor's had his struggles here and there. Soto has as well. And even Pete has gone through a rough stretch in the middle of June. But even so, he's been their best player by far. I think Pete really has stepped up to the plate this season, and he's going to get a monster payday at the end of the year. They cannot rely on him as much as they have with runners in scoring position. He's been one of the best in baseball, and the rest of the guys have really been slacking behind him. So they need some more contributions at the bottom of the lineup. They also need some help in the middle of their bullpen, leading up to guys like Edwin Diaz at the back end of the bullpen. I mean, they really need to rely on guys, and Ryan Stanek has not done the job so far this month. Oscar Brazaban's been a bit shaky so far. And Reed Garrett, yes, he was shaky. He's stepped up recently, but it's mainly those two guys and Brazaban, Stanek. They just need some more help. They've dealt with some injuries to the bullpen with AJ Minter now out for the season, or being out for the season for a while now. They also have some more injuries. Daniel Nunez is out for the year as well. So, injuries popping up left and right, and the Mets need some help in the middle of their bullpen. Yes, you could get another starter. That would definitely help, but they have a lot of guys coming back from injury, with Manaea back now, Senga back as well, and McGill will be back pretty soon. So we'll see what happens, but I give the Mets a B. I give the Yankees a B- in the first half of this MLB season. But that will do it for episode 91 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast. Please subscribe below. I've been Zach Mellon. Thanks for watching, and talk to you all on Thursday.